It's the mark of booty.
Shit. Nah. Love the royal priesthood. Mark of Buddha, Sekou the Madman, Killer Priest, Fourth Chambers, Full Fuji. This beat sound like something I wear. You dig? Yo, hold on my people, why you walking around like you equal? They wrote you in as 3/5. What we gonna do about this? Talk too much, you end up like Jimi Hendrix in 27 Club. You want that knowledge? Well, I'm the plug. Knowledge itself is the drug. And I keep dropping the nugs. Culture pushing, wisdom spitting. Pimping simpletons into listening. Yawning while you spewing fiction. I can feel the tensions in your intentions. I wonder if that's Johnson heaven. If God is white, why he write that bronze was the sun? They give us reparations, that's when the apocalypse begun. Yeah. Red rhyme, okay. Yeah. Red rhyme, better rhyme. Grab your guns, daughters and sons. Wasn't long ago when they had his hung. Blood on the leaves, frontal crumbled in between. Exhale for my ancestors that prevailed. We inhale, so we inhale, dodging death every day. Just happy I'm here to tell the tale. Meanwhile, y'all with the pigs and them tattletales. I'ma just be a scientist if it all fails. Mixing chemicals like a cocktail. My tree smell like it's from the tropical. So not for sale, never settle. Follow the tears on the trail. Nah.
That whole African American thing is to omit, you see, the indigenous black man of this particular land. When we brought the African American term, we cut out all of the Caribbean, all of South America, all of Latin America. This is another way to reclassify you, you see what I'm saying, outside of power.
We got blacks, whites, brown and yellow. We got red, those with dreads found from the ghetto. We got bullet-led and misled, the smile of the devil. On the face of the moon, heart pound like a rebel. Hear the sound of the metal. War in Iraq, 6 feet underground with the shovel. All over the map, the Bible said signs of the time. The Torah said that's your God, not mine. The Holy Quran says it's all Allah's design. The Buddhist says let's meet at the shrine. Thou shalt not eat of the swine. That you is the cut, sure as blue as the blood. Killer priests in the temple, Nehru is the love.
That's a political move that was put in by the government to break you down to this subclass, you see, and not be a world community. So to call you an African American is to disconnect you from that global community and that great diaspora that we were talking about. So that's a political move. Yes, come on. The average Native American was this brother's complexion at the turn of the century. Now when you say Native American, it's some white person with a feather in his hair.
All right. Greetings, and welcome back, family, to another edition of New Day Resurrection and Liberation. I am your co-host and moderator for this evening, Brother Lumumba Uncaged. And of course, I got the host with the most with me, Sister Empress Chi, aka Dr. Filet.
All right. Greetings, everyone. And again, as Brother Lumumba just mentioned, welcome to another edition of New Day Resurrection and Liberation. Wow. You know, it is so much, it's always stuff going on, but it's so much going on right now, Brother Lumumba. I'm telling you. Woo. A lot to talk about tonight.
Indeed.
So I'm just going to say, just give folks kind of a little recap, because we did a lot this week, and we just want everyone to know we're going to kind of review some of what we did this week. We talked last night. We did a freestyle edition of Ethereal Journey because we did not do our regular Tuesday edition. So we did a freestyle last night, and it was very, very good. So we're going to kind of recap from that, and we're going to also again review this year's pilgrimage, the annual pilgrimage to the Malcolm X gravesite. We're going to give you kind of a little overview again on that, and also ask you some questions as to why for 60 years people do not feel the need or the desire to participate. We want to talk a little bit about that. And lastly, as a recap, we're going to talk about the Black Poli Sci 101. We're getting some really good feedback by implementing this project, this series, and I can tell you the next ones coming up are going to be just as powerful. So, again, those are just a few of the recaps for tonight. But we have tonight another segment we're introducing because we realize we got to do something about our movements. The movements that we say are for justice and liberation as it pertains to us, Black folks, not to everyone else. Now, not this particular conversation. There's conversations and times for that, but tonight it's pretty specific because if we're going to move forward in the way that we need to at this particular time, we got to do some real critical examination of our movements at this particular time, do some comparative analysis, but also be prepared to take things forward. With that said, Sister J. Renee is going to be joining us. She did something very interesting in her assessment and experience of recently going through a situation dealing with some internal struggles as it pertains to at least one of the movements that she's involved in. And I can bear witness, this has happened with MWM as has happened with other groups, organizations, particularly the ones that strive for less involvement with other entities, peoples, influences. So she's going to be talking to us tonight about something that she just did on YouTube that is now going to help, I dare say, bring about greater clarity, conversation, and solutions to dealing with some of the things that are interrupting, usurping, and even worse when it comes to our movements, campaigns, projects, things of that nature. So look forward to J. Renee in a few minutes. It's going to be really interesting. So that's what we're starting with now, family. Uh-oh.
All right, all right.
Here we go.
All right, excellent, excellent.
All
Now,
right.
we do have a couple of people that's with us. I'll check on our social medias in a second. We do have in the yard with us Sister Dot and also Baba Moses. So thanks. Appreciate
All right.
them joining us this evening.
So while we have two folks that are in the backstage, in our backstage, I'm going to ask both of them because both of them participated, attended the sessions for with Brother Charles Barron, part one, part two. Part two, I mean, part one was good. Part two for me was like really off the hook because Brother Charles Barron, of course, really went into some history about the electoral process and some history about the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. And I mean, if I know that folks did not have some of that information. And so I'm going to ask Sister Dottie and Brother Moses what they thought about our last sessions for Poli Sci, Black Poli Sci 101.
All right, all right. Uh, Sister Dot, I'm gonna let
Well,
you.
I thought it was great.
Okay, excellent, excellent.
What did you learn, Sister Dottie?
I learned a lot. I learned a lot about the different parties. I learned a lot about we need our own. I need a lot. Learned a lot about it's not too late, and don't just do the lesser of two evils because there isn't no such thing. And if you're a Christian, you shouldn't be trying to do that anyway. But anyways, I learned a lot politically. It was so good. I was sitting here talking about, oh yes, yes, yes. I was screaming. I was hollering. I was like, everything he was laying down. I was right. I was like, yes, that's right. That's right. It was so good.
All
All
right.
right. Thank you,
Excellent.
Sister Dottie. All right. What about you, Brother Moses? What did you think about the sessions?
Okay. First of all, I think I attended the first session. I don't think I
Oh,
attended the second session. I think, if I'm recalled correctly, I was good. What I heard, he was educated. Certainly, all the just struggles of the people support each other, no matter what. If it's a just struggle, it will be supported by the people. Thank you.
all right.
All right. I said, give
All
thanks.
right.
Thanks.
Okay, well, just so everyone know, some of the upcoming sessions is going to feature Sister Inez Barron. Of course, she is the wife, the mate of Charles Barron, and of course also held several political seats in the city of New York as well. So she's going to be joining us very soon, and we have a couple other folks that we're going to be sharing with you as well. All right. So before we go into some of our clips for tonight, family, I just want to, it's so much again. I want to kind of recap something that we talked about last night on Ethereal, the session that we did, kind of again a surprise session, or a session that we really just kind of said, wow, let's do this. But we talked about this new fund that is apparently being put in place under this present administration, that the Justice Department is being, shall we say, instrumental in putting in implementing it. And it has to do with providing compensation for those who experience some kind of pain,
Disenfranchisement. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right, or whatever, for the January 6th thing. And I mean,
But just to correct you, though, it just wasn't for, because we did have further information that was cited that it was not specifically for the January Sixers. It is for
yes,
those who was politically victimized, quote
that's right.
unquote, or disenfranchised. But it's framed in such a way that it appears to be specifically allocated for the January Sixers and the MAGA constituents. Yes,
Right. Right. Thank you for that clarity, brother. And the other thing that we mentioned was that one of the people, Enrique something, who was considered one of the leaders of the Proud Boy people group, he made a statement publicly on one of the major media outlets, saying that he feels he deserves millions as a result of this thing. And we're like going, wow. So they can't do anything with reparations for us, for Black folks, but they can literally start coming up with this thing. What are your thoughts, Brother Mumba, Sister Dottie, Brother Moses? What are your thoughts about that?
Let me ask this as well. Did you want me to pull up any of those clips?
Yes, please.
Okay, okay. All right, so yeah, let me see if I can jump in there real quick and to be able to just show these clips for you, just to give folks a little bit further context. Um, what some are gathering, the information some are gathering about the recent uh, legislations that are being proposed. All right, but let me see if I can find that real quick. But
Are you? While you're doing that, Brother Moon, let me ask Sister Dottie. Sister Dottie, are you familiar with this? Have you heard about it? I'm sorry, we can't hear you, Sister Dottie.
What are you asking me? Have I heard about?
What we
Hello.
just talked about? Right. Did you hear about the Justice Department setting up this fund?
Well, I'm not understanding the question. Okay. What fun?
Oh, you didn't hear what we talked about a few
No,
minutes
I
ago?
must didn't.
Okay. All right. What about you, Brother Moses?
So I'm very aware of that fund. It's part of the fascialization of the government, The State and Revolution by V.I. Lenin. We need to read that and understand what's going on. Fascialization of the government continues to take place until the government is no longer in existence. And that's just the way it's going to be. Thank you.
All right. Okay, well, Brother Lumumba's going to put some clips up that goes into what it is we're talking about. And again, this is outrageous, and that puts it mildly. And so I will share with you that a demonstration rally is being planned, not just in regards to this particular thing, but also a few other areas that are going to be, shall we say, put into the public arena for there to be a rally, a protest, a demonstration. Again, if there can be rally and demonstrations regarding what's going on in other countries that this government is doing, then certainly the stuff that's going on right here needs to be addressed as well. Okay, so Brother Mumba, are you ready with those clips?
I'll need another about 60 seconds. I gotta send it
Okay.
over. Okay.
Okay, with that said, I want to also remind everyone two things. One, the call to the universal Black woman it has been made. What that's in reference to, and again, when Sister J. Renee comes in, because she created a great kind of preliminary visual for us that is now on YouTube that talks about the history of the call to the Negro women that took place 75 years ago. Well, now with MWM 29, we will be commemorating the 75th year call to the Negro women with gathering in Washington, D.C. from September the 30th through October the 3rd. We'll be in Washington, D.C. for a summit that is going to focus on progressive Black women's leadership and power. So I'll give you more information about that very shortly. But again, this will also be a part of commemorating the 75th year anniversary of the call to Negro women that was made in 1951, where Black women came together, roughly about 130 or so. Now you got to remember, this was 1951. They came together from at least 4 states to Washington, D.C. And they had a discussion or had different sessions that focused on violence and abuse of our women and girls, the lynching of our men in particular, the injustices, period, of our people. They came together to have those dialogues and to the demand a meeting with the President of the United States. And so now we have to look at what are Black women doing today collectively on a national level. We know that our sisters are doing great things in our communities nationwide, but in a cohesive manner, in a comprehensive manner, where's it at? You see, so now we're going to change that. We're going to shift that paradigm and create consortiums and other kinds of mechanisms that enable our sisters in every city and in every state to be able to be synchronized so that we now can do things collectively that we are all aware of, that we are all connected to. That's what's going to happen in September. Okay. So let's get ready to look at this clip that we're talking about. And this, too, is one of the things that we will be addressing.
Okay, let me pull it up right now. And let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, that's loading currently. Okay. All right, let me share my screen. So there's going to be several clips, family. And, it's just going to add further context and, give folks the ability to put things into better perspective. And shout out to Jay Renee. She's on our YouTube channel right now, tapping in. Did you want her to come on the StreamYard?
Yeah, she needs to come on StreamYard.
Okay, okay. So Sister Jay, if you could come in on the StreamYard, you should have that link as well. All right, so you can engage live in the conversation. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. Thanks for all tapping in and supporting on our social media channels as well, YouTube Live. Okay, Sister J. Renee is entering into the stage. All right, we got her. Okay, and let me go ahead and share that screen now. All right, here it is. Like I said, it's about 3 clips, family, and just one will add on to the other and just build within understanding. All right. Let me go ahead and refresh. All right, and let's jump into it. Get a little bit more insight and information to this fund.
Trump just created a reparations fund.
But this is reimbursing people that were horribly treated.
And guess who wasn't included again? Black people! $1.776 billion is going into the Truth and Justice Commission. After Trump, your president, sued the IRS and reached a settlement for $1.776 billion. Funded entirely by your tax dollars, that number was not selected at random. 1776, the year that this country was built on the backs of our ancestors. So here's what happened. Trump sued the IRS for $10 billion because a former contractor leaked his tax returns. The problem was he was demanding pay from the very agency that he oversees. So he sued in his personal capacity. And this Obama-appointed judge said not so fast. But instead of dropping the case, the Department of Justice spent months trying to figure out how to legally compensate your president. And when they could not, the Attorney General reached a settlement where a 5-person commission. Since Trump can't personally be compensated, guess who can? His business entity, his youngest sons and his daughters, and over 1,600 January 6 rioters, allegedly. So let me tell you about HR 40. Because surely they got reparations for black people, right, Representative Ayala? But no, baby, because Congress won't even pass a bill to study reparations, much less pay them. But they found $1.776 billion to fund those folks who attack the American democracy. Do not ever let anybody tell you that reparations is too expensive. They just proved it was always a choice. Trump just...
All right. Let me stop my share there. Okay. And I have 2 additional clips. I just want to add those in there just to, again, add a little bit further context and information. Okay. All right, let me go here. All right, let me open this up and share my screen one more again. All right, that's loading up. Okay, cool. All right, let me share my screen. Here we go. There it is. Okay. All right.
New fund that was announced today, $1.7 billion. Yeah. Why should taxpayers pay for the January?
Well, but this is reimbursing people that were horribly treated. It's anti-weaponization. They've been weaponized, and they worked on it. I know the Justice Department, it's really been working on it very hard. There's been numerous other occasions over the years where things like this have been done, but these were people that were weaponized and really treated brutally by a system that was so corrupt, with corrupt people running it. And they're getting reimbursed for their legal fees and the other things that they had to suffer.
Black Americans have never received federal reparations for slavery. Not for Jim Crow, not for stolen labor, not for redlining, not for Black Wall Street being burned to the ground, nothing. But do you know who did get paid? Enslavers. Under the D.C. Compensated Emancipation Act, slave owners were paid up to $300 per enslaved person for the loss of their human property. The people who were enslaved got nothing. Then Black people built anyway. They built communities like Greenwood, Black Wall Street, and America let white mobs destroy it. Now fast forward. Trump's administration has created a nearly $1.776 billion fund that could allow Trump allies and January 6th insurrectionists to apply for payouts and apologies. So let me get this straight. Black people can survive centuries of government-backed oppression and be told reparations are unrealistic. But insurrectionists may get taxpayer-funded compensation? Y'all really got us fucked up. America always finds money when it wants to. Just never for the people it actually owes.
The Justice Department has this new fund that was announced today, $1.7 billion.
Yeah.
Why should taxpayers pay for the January?
Well, but this is reimbursing people that were horribly treated. It's anti-weaponization. They've been weaponized, and they worked on it. I know the Justice Department, it's really been working on it very hard. There's been numerous other occasions over the years where things like this have been done, but these were people that were weaponized and really treated brutally.
All right, we can't hear you, Brother Mumba.
Okay. All right.
There we go.
Let me come back to you, Sister Empress. I got one more clip, but it's giving me a little bit. So give me a second. I'll pull that last clip up.
Okay, so while we're waiting for that, so family, can you believe this? I mean, of course you can, but this is outrageous. And
Can I say something?
If folks are going to sit back and let this happen without there being at least some kind of, folks saying something beyond just some regular conversation, this is totally unacceptable. Go ahead, Brother Moses.
Let me say, first of all, the power to define is the power to rule. The state and the government determines economics, always has and always will. So until you deal with the state, you're never going to solve your problem. Thank you.
Yeah, we know that. That's why we're developing our own, because we already know that, dealing with these people the way folks are dealing with them is like putting a Band-Aid on cancer. So we've been on that for quite a while. As a matter of fact, last night with our special edition of Ethereal, I went back into that was 1865, 1870, I believe, where we literally saw placed into the Constitution after the so-called 14th Amendment, the act, shall we say, came about, where there was an act put into Congress or wherever that was to help enforce or reinforce the 14th Amendment, 13th and 14th Amendment. And so they created these legislational pieces to assure, supposedly, that the 14th Amendment, 13th and 14th Amendment would be upheld. So we're very clear that no matter what they say or do, that's not going to never, ever really be implemented in the manner that we would like or we think is going to happen. And so I'm saying again, after 1865, after the so-called Emancipation Proclamation, they then issued legislation on a national level to enforce or to make certain that the 13th and 14th Amendment were in fact going to be upheld and implemented. But yet, oops, here we are again. So we're very clear, at least some of us, that, dealing with these people the way we have in the past 200 years is getting us nowhere, and it will not get us anywhere. That's more than evident. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't continue to still fight. It doesn't mean that we don't continue to still build and so forth and so on. But to believe that by just, having the conversations and having different kind of legislation and all of that, if we really believe that stuff is going to help us at this stage of the game, after over 200 years, then people are on some kind of, they're going beyond the red pill and the blue pill.
Can I say something here?
Go ahead.
First of all, it was effective. The legislation was effective. That's why Reconstruction had so many black people in Congress, etc. So words and deeds make a difference. In every situation, words and deeds make a difference. Thank you.
Okay, yep, it does. And then it's taken back again. So again, we still don't get it. And I gotta go back to Dr. Barbara Sizemore. Black folks still don't get it. So yes, we get pacified. We're given certain things for a period of time. And then what happens is it's taken away or it's revamped. For example, as Brother Charles Barron showed us the other evening for our session, we went from plantation to incarceration. So when you get legislation that then goes in place, such as the so-called black codes, anyway, we're not going to belabor that because some of us know what's going on and we are responding to it accordingly. We are under no illusions. So while it often appears that progress is being made in some manner, and of course progress is going to be made because that's life. But to think that progress is being made in such a way that, we're supposed to think that that's happening, that's a form of insanity. Anyway, Brother Moomba, you ready for the next clip?
Yeah, I got it queued up. And,
okay.
I just want to add in really quickly that those who create the game also create the rules, right? And so very often what we see is we see, progress being made. We see forward motion, and then eventually, once folks get it close enough to the end zone, to the goal, then that's when the powers that be, the power structures, move at quote unquote move the goalpost, right? So that's just something that we've seen secularly within history. Okay, as we just saw with the repealing of some of the Voting Rights Act,
right?
These are happening in real time,
right?
So we just have to be mindful, family, of these types of tactics that are utilized and have been utilized periodically, in different cycles in time. All right, we got to pay attention to history and really see how these things work and operate. And that's why it's so important that we're having these classes with the Poli-Sci 101 and different aspects of civics classes, because it really gives us more of a understanding based on history, how the different processes of legislation works, how different aspects of politics and political agendas are pushed, how they're structured, restructured, and who are really holding the strings, as it were, right? Who is really pulling the strings, who are the puppeteers, and then who, of course, are the puppets, right? One of the things that we did touch base on is the aspect of how the president of the United States is actually elected, right? Which many people think it is based on the popular vote, and it's based on a misunderstanding and a misinterpretation on how politics and legislation actually works and who's actually in power, right? Because Brother Barron got into the aspects of the differences of the electoral college and the popular vote. And a lot of people are under the false impression that the popular vote is who and what elects the president of the United States of America, which it absolutely does not. The popular votes almost means nothing, okay? Because this is some of the misnomer that came into place with the Hillary Clinton running for president. And she did indeed win the popular vote, but she lost indiscriminately with the electoral college votes. All right. So that's some of the fundamentals and basics that were being shared during our Black Poli Sci 101 classes. All right. So these are some of the things that we're talking about, family, that we have to gain more understanding of, knowing the how, the whys, and the where. Okay, where we need to be putting our energy, where we could be most effective as far as voting and legislation is concerned, how different apparatuses of legislation are put into place, how they're kept, how they're changed, how they're amended, how they're ratified, how they're eliminated, right? And what are the processes that actually take place in order to do so. So these are some of the things that we're getting into. So I would advise everyone to tap in and get some further information, insight, and education to the political system and operations with our Blacks Poli Sci 101 classes. That being said, come to the video.
Okay,
Justice
before you
Department announced the creation.
I'm sorry, Brother Moore. I just wanted to add real quick before you do. The other thing I wanted to mention too that Brother Charles Barron brought to our attention, how the transformation from the Republican Party, how Black folks transformation of Black folks into the so-called Democratic Party. He broke it down in a very succinct manner. He also talked about how with the proclamation, Emancipation Proclamation, what that really was, what it really represented, and the jurisdiction that it had and did not have. It was such an incredible class. And lastly, I just learned yesterday of another town. See, again, we could talk about Reconstruction and what was accomplished, but we also have to look at what they then destroyed. And I just found yesterday another town in South Carolina that I was not aware of, that was literally in the 1950s. Pretty much a little before that, but definitely by the 1950s, how they maneuvered the Black folks out of this town again, just dislocated them. So again, we have seen over and over where we make accomplishments and then they move in and tell you, oh, we either want to put a new road in. And in this particular case, it was near Savannah, Georgia. And it had something to do with the waterway. And so they was moving people out and the people really suffered. But anyway, we can no longer think that when we see certain advantages or certain things happening that is benefiting us, be real clear and careful to look at what they then do to take it away.
Right. And within that, how, those same type of strategies, techniques, and so forth, how can we utilize the same structure? Because the structures are to a certain degree indiscriminate, right? So once we understand these processes, how they work, how they operate, then we can begin to build a base, right? A political block, and make sure that we can utilize the same type of strategies and techniques to be able to change legislation, so on and so forth, in the manner that we see fit, and also to help block when other aspects are coming in to try to erase aspects of legislation that was made or meant to progress things, move things forward, create other aspects of balances and so forth. So that's why it's so utterly important that we have a better understanding of politics, political processes, aspects of legislation, elected officials, and how all of these things operate. All right, because a lot of us are under preconceived notions that are false. And once we get better educated, once you know better, we can do better. All right, give thanks. Let me jump into the clip.
Creation of a $1.776 billion fund to make payments to individuals, including January 6 insurrectionists who say they were wrongly targeted.
This is simply a slush fund to pay a criminal enforcement arm, a violent arm of Trump supporters to intimidate people. This is simply a slush fund. This is simply a...
Oh, you lied to me. You lied to me.
You just got to read the first paragraph to realize it's not what the media spun it to be. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche says the machinery of government should never be weaponized against any American. It is this department's intention to make right the wrongs that were previously done while ensuring this never happens again. The fund will have the power to issue formal apologies and monetary relief owed to claimants. This is where it gets real. There are no partisan requirements to file a claim. They made it seem like it was just for Republican insurrectionists for the January 6th riots. It's for anybody that could substantiate a claim for political retaliation, regardless of whether Democrat, Republican, or independent like myself. But the crazy part is Obama did it first. The Keep Siegel case. The Obama administration created a $760 million fund to redress various claims alleging racism against the federal government over a period of decades. It's very difficult to sue even state or federal government. Like, I think you can't even sue the federal government without their permission, if I recall correctly, which is crazy, right? So basically, it's given permission. Under these circumstances, if you went through something that you feel like is what Trump went through, but it's nonpartisan, December 1st, 2028 is the deadline. Any of the bread after that goes back to the government, whereas with Obama's, they set up a committee basically to just distribute it to NGOs, even if they didn't file a claim. It's like, oh, they deserve it. They deserve it. We know they got drawn on. You know what I'm saying? I don't know all the details yet. But even going back, like, you know, we got people in the city, in Philly, that have been retaliated against. Get your bread out of that 1.776 if you can establish and have proof that you were targeted.
Only thing gonna take that pain away is if you give.
Can I get in here?
All right, let me come back to Sister Empress, and then so we're gonna open the floor after that. All right. So that was again another clip, family, and that was an example, right, of putting things in further perspective, because we had stories, right, that were kind of sensationalized, that were focused on a particular angle, right, and to see what lies under the surface, because at the surface, it appears as though this fund was specifically, as I was saying earlier, allocated for the MAGA and for January 6th, etc. But as our brother Jason Rohn just gave us some additional information on, you know, upon further reading, right, and doing some further studying and due diligence, is found out that the fund is actually indiscriminate, right? And so it is not allocated for Democrats, Republicans, MAGA, or any of the sort. It is designed for people who were unjustly targeted, so on and so forth, all right? So that means that other individuals, a large majority of individuals, have capabilities in order to tap into this fund if they can find just cause. All right, with that being said, let me come back over. Matter of fact, let me add one more thing to the Frey family, if I may, because I just want to just solidify this last point, and I'll come back to Sister Empress, and then we can open up the floor after that. Let me go ahead and share my screen and just give another brief example of, you know, what was being described a little bit earlier with the moving of the goalposts or the misinterpretations or the skewing of different aspects of politics, legislation, etc. Now, this is a snapshot of the 13th Amendment, family, that was supposedly, ratified in order to, quote unquote, free the slaves. Okay. But let's read a little bit more. So let me blow this up a little bit, family. Let's read a little bit more so into what the 13th Amendment actually says and does. The 13th Amendment, ratified on December 6, 1865, formally abolished slavery and involuntary servitude throughout the United States, except as punishment for a crime. All right. Furthermore, it reads, it was the first constitutional amendment to explicitly address slavery, overturning previous provisions that had tactically recognized the institution, such as the 3/5 Compromise and the Fugitive Slave Clause. Let me stop my screen share there, family. Let me stop my screen share there. Because for all of you who did not read into what that was actually stating. It basically states that you can indeed be made a slave if you are charged and convicted criminally. All right. With that being said, yeah, let me come back to Sister Empress, and then we go open the floor after that.
Okay, well, actually, we're going to get ready to go to Sister J. Renee. She's been waiting, and I need for her to come in. But I want to just add to what you just said, Brother Mumba. What so-called civilized society says in its constitution that you can be enslaved? Show me any other system, constitution, peoples, whatever, that has in as a part of their law that you can be literally a slave if found guilty of a crime. No other society, no other peoples, no other group of government has that. Now, that in itself should really be an eye opener, especially when we're talking about an entity that advocates and whatever about democracy. That is absolutely ridiculous. But people believe it, even though the proof is right there in their faces that whatever they really saying and talking about, they don't mean none of that and will and never will. Anyway, we got our Sister J. Renee with us right now because as we talk about these issues that are impacting our lives. Oh, and by the way, one other thing about what we just heard, Brother Lumumba, with clarifying who this slush fund is for, whatever. You know, again, there has to be some sort of discretion or some sort of presentation on a world view about certain things. And so because this is a so-called democracy or whatever, it always has to create the illusion of inclusion. And so now what we heard, so that they're not as easily attacked or easily exposed, it's now giving the appearance that, oh, this is for anyone who feels that they have been targeted. And we don't understand this game yet. Anyway, for those that do, we move forward. For those that don't, feel sorry for you. Anyway, our Sister J. Renee is in queue, and we are now going to talk about something that many won't, but certainly as we proceed in the future, more will, because we've got to begin to flush out some of the misrepresentation, some of the kinds of things that are impeding our real capability to advance in the ideals and the actuality of justice and liberation for our people. So with that said, our Sister J. Renee recently created something on YouTube, and she's doing another segment. But I thought it was important that we point out that some of us are not either scared, confused, or tired. Right? And so with that said, it'll be more than obvious that people are no longer going to be able to get away with some of the stuff that they've been getting away with, at least not as easily, because some of us are on point. With that said, let us welcome our sister, J. Renee is in the house. Hey, sis, how you be tonight?
Hello, sister. Hello, family. Peace and blessings. You know, I got a big smile on my face because I'm always happy to be here, man. Y'all just don't know. I appreciate y'all so much, and y'all teach me. I always leave with knowledge every time I come to these ciphers, so that is priceless, you know. So appreciate that.
I
So
know
yes,
that.
Empress was referring to a video that I did the other day. I didn't anticipate it being so long, but it ended up being a little over 25 minutes. But it's very important. And although it was sparked by an incident, it just brought it back to the forefront of my mind that it's something to be talked about, and that's very important. And it's about vetting. And I looked up the definition. I want to give y'all a clear definition of what vetting is. Y'all can still hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. So vetting means a thorough, careful examination of a person, organization, or thing to determine whether they are acceptable, trustworthy, or suitable for a specific role, responsibility, or relationship. So um everyone in this room, I believe, and beyond that we know of, have a certain role or organization, a position, or a collective that they're trying to do, and we are all together in this when we're doing the right thing. We should be on one accord with most of everything, if not everything, but this is something very important. If we look at history, history tells a tale that nothing else can, and we have to make sure that we're learning from the things that our ancestors are learning and the things that our elders have learned, because it keeps us active, it keeps us better, it keeps us sharp, and it helps prevent a lot of things from happening. So the incident that happened is there was an infiltration of a collective out of Virginia, and they were infiltrated by more than one person. There might even be more there, but there's two that I found out about, and that is what sparked it. So vetting is very important because you got to know who you're dealing with. It's important in our personal lives, but it's also important. It's also important in this work because this is very, very serious business. And I think that some people really don't tap into how serious this is. This is life or death. This is an act of war that we're at, combating against injustice, combating the things that we know that they try to use to oppress us and stuff like that. So it's very serious. And there is really little room for error when it comes to the things that we're trying to do and the things that we got going on. So anytime that you meet somebody new, you should be vetting them, especially if you're trying to bring them into a collective that is fighting for the greater good of our people. If you look at history, there are many times where when something happened, it's usually people that don't look like us that are the ones that are trying to infiltrate. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about that too. And if it isn't, and they do look like us, it's our own people, they're often sent by others to do that infiltration because, of course, we feel more comfortable with people that look like us. So vetting is not something that is just to do to one particular people, one particular race. It's you have to vet everybody when you're doing anything that is of this type of importance. We have to make sure that our ranks have integrity, that our ranks are strong, because we are only as strong as our weakest link. If you think of a chain, it could be the strongest chain made out of titanium or whatever the strongest material is. But if it has a weak link and you pull on it, it's going to break. So we're only as strong as our weakest link. So you have to get to know people. You have to see how they move, how they think. Do you align with them? Is there anything in them that is some bull crap? I'm gonna try to make sure I don't curse, okay? It's some bull crap because it matters. Now, personally, sometimes we might let people get away with things, but when it comes to the collective fight that we're doing and its importance, we have to make sure that there is no room for error. There's no room for anybody that's getting into the ranks and they're breaking it up because they got the gossip mill and all they're doing is whispering and spreading lies. There's no room for people that when they can't get their way, they have a highly emotional response and then start to play police games. What I mean by police games is purposely bringing in law enforcement and entities that align with it to cause problems in people's lives that can already be complicated when they've done nothing wrong. Anybody that is trying to manipulate those that we say that we serve and that we're trying to help. Anytime this behavior is seen, it has to go. And how you find this behavior is vetting. How do they move? What are they doing? How do they interact with others? How do they react when certain things are going on? All of that stuff matters, and it can be very small. And the vetting process It doesn't stop after you meet them. Okay, I checked them out. They're good. Okay, boom, you in here. And now you're telling them all your business. Absolutely not. The vetting process is something that continues. The more that you're around a person, the more that you work with them, you should continually be vetting them. Now, you don't have to stand with your arms crossed staring at them to see what they do. Just being around them, talking to them. What are they doing that you can see? How do they react to certain situations? It could be a look. If you have a room full of smiling faces and somebody frowning, you might want to see what they up to. You might wonder, hey, what's going on with this person? You know what I mean? Paying attention to your surroundings is half of the vetting process. Paying attention to what people say, their character, all of these things are going to come into the fight. So if you know somebody that is a thief, they should never be a treasurer. And if you know somebody is a thief, you shouldn't let them be anybody else's treasurer either that's in this fight. It's not gossip when you're spreading and telling information for the greater good of what we're doing. Gossiping is when people whisper, oh, I heard so-and-so be stealing. That's gossip. But say, hey, I see this guy right here. He's known to steal. This is the proof that I have. I see that he's in your organization, and don't make him your treasurer. This is this person's character. People need to know this. And the person that you're telling this, or the person that you're speaking about, they might get mad. So what? So what if they get mad? This is serious business. Let them go away. And we have to make sure that anybody that we know and associate with, that we know are doing the work, knows who these people are when they show that they violated. Now, you don't have to say what they do on a Saturday night if it's not hurting nobody else and they're not doing anything like that. But what they do in this fight matters. And what titles they pick up and put on, we have to hold them to that title. I always say, don't put a hat on that you're not willing to wear outside. It's a lot of people that say, I'm an activist, I'm an advocate, but they're manipulating people and abusing their power. No, you're not. You're somebody that help people sometimes. You're somebody that's in the mix. So to me, brothers and sisters, vetting is of the utmost importance. It never really stops. Now, if you've known somebody 20, 30 years, if they've survived that long around you, it's probably a good bet that they are right. You know what I mean? They have proven themselves and they continue to show up. And at times we're going to do things wrong. But there's certain things we just can't do that can't be forgivable. Okay. If you knock some milk over, oh man, let me help you clean the milk up. You don't have to act like they, ruin the world. But if they're doing something that is not right, that is going to take away from the integrity of the fight, that is going to disrupt the things that we got going on or even destroy them, they can't be there. And it's another thing I want to speak on briefly. Let me drink some of this water because just medication I took makes my mouth dry. 1 second. This is for Black people. This is what I'm going to address. When it comes to us and our business, it is our business. Now, there are going to be others that come in that are allies. I don't care what race they are. They could be white, Puerto Rican, Chinese. It doesn't matter. There's a certain integrity that we have to keep in our bubble that is just our business. And that's just the way it is. They should not have any passwords to anything that can crumble or destroy or can be used to cause a problem or stop our fight. They shouldn't, there's certain meetings they can't go to. They you can't, they might not even know they exist. We have to make sure that we are protecting our hub, our bubble, our center, the heart of us. Because it's been shown, history tells you, they will stab us in the heart, man. We can't let them get to the vital parts of ourselves. There's no reason why they should be in charge of any of our websites that belong to us, that put out our information. They should not. It shouldn't be something they created. It shouldn't be something that they work for us. Nope, no passwords. And I am a strong believer in that, and I'm gonna always believe that. We have to make sure that the people that we align in our heart, in our hub, are people that we all have the same fight. We have the same mission. It matters to us. Our community matters. I care about my kids. I care about my grandkids. I care about my nephew. I care about my friends' children and their families and everybody on this call. We care about each other. So this mission is totally different from for us. This is real life. This is serious business to us. It's not always. I don't know why some people get in a fight. Allies need to know their place. An ally will never give you static because you don't want to give them a password because they know why they're there. They know why they're there. They're not trying to do none of that. They not. What do you need? What can I do for you? How can I help you today? I think I'm right about that. I hope that y'all agree. I would love some feedback.
All right, all right. Excellent, excellent. Thank you for that
Yes.
addition, Sister J. Renee. One thing I wanted to add to that really quickly, and then I'll come back to Sister Empress, is the fact that you know, um, as far as the additions of allies, having sensitive information, I'm in agreement with a majority of what was said. Um, and the aspects of things needing to be compartmentalized to a certain aspect and degree. All right. There should be many levels, right? And there should be internal circles that proceed as far as levels of security, scrutiny, vetting, so on and so forth. Because even some individuals, that are of our ethnicity, that are of our same yoke and same struggle, right? Those who are directly connected to the struggle in that aspect, even some of those individuals shouldn't have passwords, shouldn't have certain actions.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So, there should be
Absolutely.
circles among circles among circles. And when you get into that very center inner circle, those are few and far between, right? And so I definitely agree on that. And I would like to add also that um, Black folks have to step up their game and be willing, stop being lazy and be willing to do the work, because a lot of the times I see that it falls upon others, allies, to do certain jobs, do certain tasks and activities, because there are Black folks that just simply are not willing to do so, right? That are being lazy, or not really wanting to be educate themselves, to take the time, to take the energy, to take the effort in order to gain certain skills, certain know-how, so on and so forth, so they can be proficient in running whatever aspect or component of activism that is. So we have to hold ourselves more accountable as well, as far as having to have others and allies fill in some roles and positions because we ourselves are not willing to do so. And with that, I yield. Let me come back over to Sister Empress to add in on that.
Okay, well, needless to say, I'm in pretty much total agreement all across the board with Sister J. Renee, and you also, Brother Moomba. The whole idea and the point is we've got to do better, and we know from history, and not just recent history. I mean, you go back even to Nat Turner, and even with Saint Harriet Tubman, who said, I could free more if they only knew they were slaves. Well, there's so many different scenarios, and some of it is very specific. Folks really, telling on us, telling the enemy, oh, this is what they're getting ready to do, y'all. And so we have those examples from past and present. And so at this stage of the game, we need to take all of that in and act accordingly and do accordingly. There's still questions around the demise of Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. And most don't want to talk about that for whatever reason.
That's right.
And so I'm saying again, in recent times, MWM was infiltrated several times. Some intentionally, some that were made offers later and then decided, that they're going to sell us out. So, and then we look at the Black Panther Party. We look at COINTELPRO that infiltrated many, many organizations and groups. And I mean the stuff that they did, and it's documented, by the way. So again, when I saw Sister J. Renee do this piece, I was like, yep. Just like we do Black Poli Sci 101, we got to do some other sessions too. Because I strongly believe if we do what we're supposed to do in terms of advancing struggle, both from a tactical standpoint, from an operational standpoint, I strongly believe that we do what we're supposed to do, the stuff that we miss or, maybe didn't do as well as we should have, ancestors will get our back. But we got to do the part that we're supposed to do. You see, I bear witness to that. So the time has come not only for truth to be spoken into power, the time has come now where power is going to be implemented in ways that now really need to be implemented. And not haphazardly, not as Sister J. Renee just said, not in a way that is, using or abusive. No, but that is myotic. And this is why next year for us, it's going to be a powerful year because it's linked in, it ties in to the traditions of the Dogon peoples. So you see, a lot of people refer to other people in terms of their ideology and, their belief system and their practices. Well, some of us look at some of the things that is a little more indigenous to us. And so the Dogon peoples are one of those entities. They have a history, a cosmology, a philosophy, a frame of reference that talked about for centuries the development of us as a people. And so next year marks the beginning of the 60-year cycle for the Dogon peoples. And so I'm not advocating that we do what they do or think like they think, but what I am saying is they bring something to the table that is definitely noteworthy, because before them, wasn't nobody talking about no star called the Sirius, the system called the Sirius system before them. So if nothing else, they bring something to the table that some of us are definitely paying attention to. So next year marks for them the 60th year cycle of certain things that they do and observe. And so we're just paying attention. We're just trying to vibe in whatever way we can that is positive and productive from our people, their philosophies, their political practices, not somebody else's. And it has been maintained, and it has a level of honor and dignity. And we're going to be bringing more information about who they are in terms of Mali, but their transformation from the area known as Kemet, and how they live above the land, many of them. When you see where their houses are on mountains to this day. So I digress. But I'm saying the time is now coming that we will be embracing to a greater extent our history, our culture, our legacies. And from that, we will not only get Black power, we're going to get universal and ultra Black power. I yield. All right.
Oh, I say.
Oh, okay.
And thank you for that addition, Sister J. Renee, as well as Sister Empress. All right, if we could open up the floor up now, I just want to get some feedback on the presentation and the information that Sister J. Renee has shared. All right, anyone have any? And thanks for joining us, Sister Shayla. All right, tapping in and joining us from Germany. All right. With that being said, I want to open the floor up for any questions or comments with the information that we have heard thus far.
Hello?
Yes, Baba Moses, you had a question or comment?
Yes, I again, I think, it's a matter of the heart. Like words and deeds come down to the heart, basically. You can't change a person's heart. You can only accept them as they are, and if you find unity, that is, you accept them and you struggle for them to create a better day for tomorrow. Unite today for a better tomorrow. And we agree on reparations. That's what we agree on. The rest of the separation, all that's all on y'all. I'm for freedom of religion and freedom of philosophy and whatever. But we do agree on reparations. I'm into Black power. That's why I knew that we had to have Obama. He morally had kids that morally were correct, and he was Black. And therefore, we needed him, and we put him in office. I've been voting ever since I was 18 years old. I'm 75 years old now. And experience is what changes people's mind, not ideas. That's why we had to have a real Black president. And we had him, and I'm glad about it. Now it's time to get revolution and get serious about Black people, and not just Black people, but people in general having a revolution. And I'll leave it right there in words and deeds. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that addition, Baba Moses. I would like to add just a few things to that. Here on New Day, we don't profess any religion. We don't profess, in particular, any type of philosophy or push that upon any other people. So we're definitely for freedom of religion. We have Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, so on and so forth that come on and just have discourse and furthermore, right? We have different philosophies. We have socialists. We have Republicans, we have Democrats, all across the board. Some of the fine things that we that intersect, that we do come to agreement on, is the aspects of our history, the aspects of our culture, and the aspects of our legacy. Right? When we talk about freedom, justice, and liberation, and the injustices that we have faced as a people intergenerationally. All right. So those are some of the things that we agree upon. Right. And I just wanted to make some clarity as far as the tolerance that we have, because it is immense, as far as different people's perspectives, so on and so forth, ideologies. So I just wanted to make some clarifications on that. Secondly, I wanted to touch base on your the information you provided as far as a Black president, right? Now, we just talked about vetting, and I thought you was going to speak on the vetting process and what Jay Renee was saying, but I appreciate your additions nonetheless. But I on the Black president aspect, I would like to say, first of all skin folk is not kinfolk. And we just described how even within Black folks, there needs to be circles upon circles. So even though folks are Black does not mean that they mean well or that they're going to do well, right? So we have to be very, very careful when we select or we elect people just on the mere fact and basis that they're Black. I would like to also add that President Obama bombed more African nations than any other president in history, right? So we have to look at things in their full scope, all right? So we have a symbolic win on a president that, first of all, I have to add that he was not a freedman, right? So he was not ADOS or FBA. He was not the descendant of the people who were enslaved in this country, right? And so he was a descendant of a continental African and a European, right? And so Obama was a symbolic victory. It was not really anything that Obama did that actually benefited Black people specifically, nor did he push anything of a national Black agenda. As a matter of fact, he said very specifically that he would not. All right, so I just wanted to bring some clarity to some of the information that was that's provided, because we want to make sure people have a full scope of knowledge and information that's being provided and not be under any false pretense. With that being said, yeah.
And if I may add, very, very clearly, he stated that he was against reparations. He said that specifically. The other thing I want people to be very clear about when we talk about political trickery, here's an excellent example. Forever, it will be known in history that the first Black president was born by a Caucasian woman. So I want you to think about that very carefully, because in this world, the first of something really matters. It creates a synergy, it creates a milestone in something, in social structures, etc. So for the United States of America, the first president that is considered to be a Black president happens to be born from a non-Black woman. Now, if you don't understand the psychology to that in reality and the dynamics that that has on the future generations, then I dare say, no, I won't say. Let's move on.
All
What's
right.
next?
Thank you for
Go ahead,
that
brother.
addition, Baba Moses, as well as Sister Empress. I just want to open the floor once again. If there's any questions or comments based on the information that we've heard thus far and the presentation that was given, the information, dissemination of information that was given by Sister J. Renee, or any of the information that we have heard of thus far. Sister Shayla, I'm not sure what part of the conversation you came in at, or
Yes, I'm
Mhm.
here. I'm listening to you, and thank you for your explanation. I really love the point that the sister brought about the so-called allies, right? If we really, of course, I'm speaking from the side of an outsider because I'm not an SPA, yes, but it's something that impacts us everywhere where we are the so-called descendant of slaves. I'm not from the US, but the descendant of slaves from South America, and the dynamics are very similar to a certain point. And if we are truly serious about our situation, we should be able to pass our history to the future generation. And this is one thing that I don't see a lot. Before I entered the call, I was watching Roots again. Yeah, so this movie, very famous movie. I watched the first time when I was 6, 7 years old, and now I was watching again. And it's so clear. And I read a lot, different books, even about history, since Africa and everything. And the pattern is the same. And I think we don't move in a nice way because we don't read,
Mm.
we feel comfortable in the situation that we are. We keep slaves, sorry about that. Yeah, so there are some exceptions. So we are people who are here trying to find a solution, having discussions, but the majority of our people, and I'm talking about the ones who were enslaved in the Americas, very ignorant, just love symbolic things. And what the sister said right now about how it's a psychological warfare, and about this Obama. I remember when he became the first time president. I was 8 or 19 years old, and it was for the whole black world, one thing, right? And this symbolic that he was born by from a white woman is something so serious. And it's also a point that you are using right now this term delineation, what I think it's very important, even for you have specifically in the US, but for us all. And there is a brother in the US. I don't agree with a lot of stuff that he says, and I'm not trying to put Africans in a bad way or something like that. But I follow a lot of the politics even around the world, and I think you know about this claim of Ghana trying to speak about the reparations for Africans in general, and I follow that a lot. I was talking with people from there, and the last guy he was a minister of finance, I don't know, from Ghana, involved in this so-called reparation that they spoke in the UN. And the guy, he had the face to say that we who are in the Americas, we should get better education, jobs, or something like that as reparation. So this
Mhm.
very disrespectful. These people are talking about us, and this is what she said. Okay, you said Obama was the son of an African guy and a white woman, and the dynamic is the same when these people sold us in the continent, right? I'm not trying to, but the truth must be told. Yes, this is the same dynamic, and I think we don't learn. Or in the US, you have brilliant minds, people who write a lot. You have the most of the books or the information that I get, they are from the United States, from Black folks there, because you have the best scholars ever in the Black world. We must do better collectively, yes, not just learn when we are old, when we went through a lot of stuff, because the dynamics is very similar since the time that we were sold to the Americas. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that addition and for that perspective, Sister Shayla. All right. Always appreciative of, having different perspectives, especially, having different dynamics from Black folks across the world, and to be able to uh, take another look or scope from a different point of view. All right. And also being able to tie and connect some of our struggles together intercontinentally. All right. Much appreciated once again. With that being said, let me come back over to Sister Empress. While I'm doing that, I'll check to see if there's anything in the comments on our social media.
All right. Thank you, Brother Moomba. And also check your email. I sent you the clip for one of the latest Mumia Abu Jamal commentaries that I'd like to share at some point before we close out tonight. We must not forget the ongoing, continued struggle to free Mumia Abu Jamal and all of our political prisoners. So again, thank you, Sister Shayla, for your commentary. As usual, you are always enlightening. Going back to our Sister J. Renee, again, it takes courage. And Sister, I want to say this to you directly, because a lot of times as Black women, we do not get one another's backs. We will stab one another in the back sometime, but not get one another's backs when it comes to a sister stepping out in a manner that could create for some a problem, an issue, or whatever. And so I just want you to know that big ups to you, kudos to you, continue to do the work that you're doing. And again, you doing what you're doing will encourage others, both sisters and brothers, I think, to not continue to allow what we're seeing in our communities, in our organizations. We have gotten so used to certain things that it's become a mainstay now. We've gotten so used to behaviors that, it's like a norm. And it can no longer be. It shouldn't have been in the first place, and it's definitely not a norm, but we are allowing it to happen. So we've got to create deterrence now. We've got to create situations where people will at least possibly think twice before doing and acting the way that we see them do and act. Again, as Brother Malcolm taught us, as long as we do not respond in a certain kind of manner, people perceive us as chumps. We always got to make sure we are hugging up with some other people. We fear that, if we're not, whatever with others, then we're perceived as being too this or too that or whatever. But other groups of people, they like, yeah, okay, y'all go ahead and do that, because we ain't doing that beyond a certain point. They stand on their own 2 feet, and deal with issues themselves. If others decide to support or whatever, it's cool, but you do know that the folks that's fighting for their justice and liberation, they're running the thing, but not with us. Not with us. Usually behind the scenes is somebody else. And we got groups and organizations to this day that, all of this camaraderie stuff is really being controlled and manipulated by people that don't look like us, or people that look like us but think like them. So lastly, as we examine the Caucasian European influences and impacts on our struggles, on our movements, simultaneously, we're also now paying closer attention to the Negropeans. Y'all time is up too. All right, I'll stop there.
I appreciate that, Empress. That shout out to me. And I always know that things be aligning right because I just was having a thought about that, how we don't support each other the way that we should. Because I try to be very supportive, especially of our women. So that was right on time. I appreciate you very much.
Ashe. Well, I have a few sisters in my life, and there are times when we, disagree, and we even argue, and we even fall out and don't speak for a while, and all of that. But you let somebody even think for a second that they're gonna come at me wrong. They in for a big surprise, and not just surprise, but a response. You see, and that's what we're building with MWM now, to the greatest extent, from a national, international level, because it doesn't exist. It hasn't existed until now. This is why we say we are a movement. We want to make sure we exemplify the spirit, the tenacity, the courage of our real mothers, daughters, sisters of the movements. And do it in such a way that we're not trying to smother or manipulate or whatever. We want sisters to know that they can be independent thinkers and doers and still work collectively. So we're not looking to try to hinder any of our women and girls when it comes to their capabilities. Unlike most groups and organizations. And yes, I said it and can prove it. We're not trying to tell anybody what to believe in terms of religion. We're not trying to tell anybody what to, a whole bunch of other stuff. Our main concern is and focus is that they're Black. Now, we can use all these other adjectives to define ourselves all day and night, and that's fine. But again, I deal with physics and those things relevant to that, the concepts relevant to that. So I'm going to use that word based on what I know, not because somebody said, oh, it means dead, or it means, oh, please, Negro, please. We're not buying none of that at this time. We know that too is an indoctrinational tool, and everybody's not going for it. But anyway, so moving right along. Brother Lumumba, did you find the clip for Mumia?
Oh, yes, indeed.
Okay. Let us hear from our brother.
All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Here we are. And it looks like we're right in time and right in tune with Baba Mumia as well, who seems to be touching base on the same type of subject matter. As we were talking about, all skin folk may not necessarily be kinfolk. All right, let's hear from Baba Mumia Abu Jamal, also known as the voice of the voiceless.
Here's the problem with black skin, white masks. In my study and read and reflection of black skin, white masks, and then the wretched of the earth, A Dying Colonialism, and other works by Fanon. I find that the man who wrote Black Skin, White Masks is not the man who wrote The Wretched of the Earth. Why do I say that? I say that because, you know, scholars have shown that Black Skin, White Mask was supposed to be his doctoral thesis. His advisors, who were doctors, who admired his remarkable brilliance, talked him out of that. And he did like a standard doctoral thesis on a medical problem and a psychological problem, right? But the man who wrote Black Skin, White Masks was a man wrestling with himself. He writes in that book, "What do I care about black nationalism? That's not me. I am a Frenchman. My culture is French. My language is French. France," this is a quote, a direct quote, "France is my religion." I can hardly repeat that line without laughing because it's so preposterous when you read The Wretched of the Earth. Because he is another man when he writes The Wretched of the Earth. He is no longer a Frenchman. He speaks French because that's his, the language of his youth and of his education. But in his mind, he is a combatant against the French Empire. When he wrote Black Skin, White Masks, he was what he would call a colonized subject, right? He said Martinicans went to France, almost like, for them, it was almost like going to heaven. Except when they met French people, they learned that they weren't who they thought they were. Because the French are the French, and you're either one of them or not. And if you're coming from their colonial possessions, you are not regarded as French, especially if your skin is dark or you're brown or black or yellow when you think about it. So the consciousness that wrote that was the tortured consciousness of a colonized subject. When he broke out of that, when he was on his way to medical school in Lyon, in France, on the French equivalent of the GI Bill, his mind was exploded by a child who looked at him, and the little boy looked at his mother and said, "Mama, mama, un nègre. Mama, mama, a nigger." And it blew his mind. And he was never the same. And he writes about that in Black Skin, White Masks. He said, "My body was shattered into 1,000 pieces. And I tried to pull it all together, but it was a new me pulling it all together." And he was traumatized. His dream of what he thought France was not. And when he went to Algiers and he saw how his fellow doctors and psychiatrists treated the Algerian people, he knew what side he was on. He not only tried to transform that medical system in Algiers, he joined the FLN and he worked underground, but he taught them how to survive torture. And and he treated torturers. It's in The Wretched of the Earth, his medical files. So this extraordinary man, was not the same man. So read Black Skin, White Masks with that knowledge and that caution, and it will speak to you.
All right, all right.
I have something to say
Wow.
relevant to that.
Wow. You know, listening to Mumia, you see, this is what I'm talking about when I say we're losing a certain essence. And when I hear Mumia, it reminds me of that. It reminds me that we are losing something here. We're not going to keep losing it, I can tell you that, but we have been losing something. Mumia encompasses I don't even know the words to use, but I think you all know what I'm referring to, what I'm talking about. You know, you can feel what he's saying. It's not just words. It's not just a commentary or whatever. It comes from a different place. And this is what helps to differentiate some things from other things. So even when we talk about black, we're going to have to talk more about what that actually represents and means in real time. What are the essences of it? What are the elements that we're referring to? Because at this stage of the game, it is clear that it is unnecessarily ambiguous, unnecessarily misunderstood, and misrepresented. And this is why we're going to have to make certain, just like at some point people decided to call things this, that, or the other, we are going to, again, define things for ourselves and define ourselves. We're going to have to do that and put it on record. Because at this point in time, what people think is and isn't and all of that is not clear, and we're going to have to make it clear. That has to be a part of the mission for today. The other thing I want to point out to folk is, for those who are not familiar with Frantz Fanon is also considered a philosopher. Now, you oftentimes hear people talk about other people in certain contexts, particularly in the field of philosophy. You rarely hear of our people in particular, definitely not other people, but you really hear our people talk about our philosophers. They will always talk about other people, be it Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. They'll talk all about these other people, but will rarely make any reference to our own philosophers. Now, of course, we had some from antiquity or from, ancient times, Aesop and others, Imhotep, but, people don't want to talk about those, but that's okay. But let's look at even as early as the 1800s, right? Or the 1900s. We won't even talk about those people. Most won't. But we'll hail up all these other people real quick, real fast. So in the very near future, we're going to start sharing with you some of the people that we've been able to learn about. Because nowadays, you can learn so much real quick. It's at your fingertips. And one would not even think that even Phyllis Wheatley, who's known for her poetry, at least by some, but by many who are into a certain level of literature. But she was also considered a philosopher, even though she might not have had the degree or what have you, but she was in fact considered a philosopher based on her technique, based on what she wrote about, and so forth and so on. Same as with Fanon. Fanon was not a philosopher per se. He was in the medical field. All his, his degrees and recognition and writings and stuff was in that way until he then, of course, transformed or went into more of the political realm. But his documentational stuff was medical, right? But we tend not to give credit to our people when they go into certain arenas, they might not have pursued it from the academic level, but certainly have risen in that area. We won't give them that credit because the other people didn't give it to them. So we don't. So to the point that I'm making, family, is we can really change all of that. And I'll go more into detail a little later on about what I just said. But in the meantime, again, when you get the opportunity, check out Phyllis Wheatley. Because again, it is so important that we begin to highlight our own people and not push other people so much as if they're the greatest, they're the icing on the cake. Anyway, I yield. Let's go to the next topic. Oh, but before we do, any comments on what Brother Mumia? Any comments on what Brother Mumia? Any comments on what Brother Mumia just gave us?
Yes, I would like to say something.
Is it a comment on Brother Mumia?
Yes, it's to the point of what Brother Mumia was talking about. Yes, black skin, white mass, and etc. What he was analyzing. Yes.
Okay.
And I'm going to say something briefly. Family is the foundation of a nation. That's why I was so supportive of Obama's family structure. But my point is, in 1970s, I was working at a group called Stone Soup. It was a nonprofit, food for people, not for profit. We had over $1 million in volume, and we were serving the community food. And anyway, I was living in a collective. We were studying Marxism, Leninism, Mao Zedong thought. I was an Italian couple, an Anglo woman and her kids. The Italian couple had kids. I didn't have any kids, but we were all in a collective together, studying Marxism, Leninism, Mao Zedong thought. Anyway, there's socialism utopian, there's socialism scientific. One day, after, I fed the kids, took them to school, did all the collective things. And one day, Francesco, the Italian kid who was about 8 years old, called me a nigger. And that was the last day I was with the commune. And so I'm saying I'm aware of racism, but there's utopian socialism and there's scientific socialism. And we have to be about scientific socialism, about words and deeds. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not sure how that was applicable to what Mumia was just saying, but I won't go into that right now. Okay, moving right along. Again, we're going to talk more about the accomplishments of our people, Black people, African descended people. And, we take into consideration the experiences that many have had over the past 250 years. And we have learned from some of those experiences that have been shared with us. And so we move forward from there. This past week, as we indicated, we shared or embraced the work, the legacy of Malcolm X, El Hajj Malik El-Shabazz. And again, we look at people that we know have done certain things for us specifically and gave their life for that. And we will never confuse that with other stuff. So, with that said, anyone else have any comment or thought about what Brother Mumia just shared with us? His views, his commentary, his insights. Any thoughts about that?
Yes. When he listening to him read, I could envision everything in my head. The way
Yeah.
he presented it, it was just like I could see it all. And when he finished, I was like, man, that was heavy. I was like, I wanted to hear more.
That's right. Yes.
And I was just like, dang, it's over. So yeah, it was very powerful, the things that he said and just sharing. I think it was important that he pointed something like that out. And it interests me to the point that I'm gonna look these books up, you know what I mean? So yeah, it was definitely, it hit exactly where it was supposed to.
No doubt. No doubt. Well, thank you for that, Sister J. So again, one of the key things for me that was pointed out is that we go through transformations. We go through periods of growth and development. And even at some point in our lives, when we see that we're at a certain place, we're capable to grow beyond that. And this is what he indicated with the life of Frantz Fanon, which is quite evident when you read and study his work. You can see the transformation. You can see the growth and development. You can see the comprehension of what was happening with our people, particularly. And for those who do not know, Mumia is now working on his PhD. And his thesis, or the paper that he is writing, is Frantz Fanon. We have planned to have joining with us, hopefully in August, Frantz Fanon's daughter. I had the opportunity to meet with her last year when she came to Philly. And she does head up the Frantz Fanon Foundation, which is based, of course, in Paris. And she is an incredible human rights advocate and just, practitioner of sorts. And she is an official representative of the United Nations in the human rights arena. She was a part of the delegation that was sent from the United Nations in 2015 that went to 5 states to hear the community talk about reparations, and was a part of the team that drafted the findings. These are things that most will not share with our people. And the gatekeepers that look like us and that don't look like us are the ones that make certain that this kind of information is not given to the masses. And then the ones who are, scholarly or academic or whatever won't take the time to really get this information either. So this is again why the We Charge Genocide 21 is so, on point, because one of our key missions is to educate, provide information, the capability to engage with the masses of our people, particularly on the grassroots level. So thank you for that, Sister Janae. Anyone else before we go to the next segment? We're going to close this out with Mumia Abu-Jamal. But before we do, any other thoughts or comments about what you just heard from that particular commentary? All right, moving right along. All right, Brother Mumba, before we get ready to close out, actually we have one more segment that we want to introduce to kind of provide some reports and updates. But before we do, tomorrow is our next Ubuntu session. What do we got coming up for tomorrow?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Tomorrow, we're going to have our meeting, coordinating and organizing meeting for our Ubuntu Justice Jubilee for Black human rights, as well as reparatory justice. For those who are not familiar, there was a declaration that was ratified by 123 country representatives in the UN, and there was 3 countries who declined it, and 53 countries, if I'm not mistaken, that abstained from the vote. All right. Now, this was not legal precedence that was set. This was an acknowledgement and a declaration that the transatlantic slave trade was the gravest crime against humanity documented in human history. All right. And so this was March the 25th, 2026 of this year. And with that, that was organized by the African Union and delivered by the representative of Ghana. I think Sister Shayla was commenting on some additional or some update information within that declaration. And some of the information that Sister Shayla was sharing was a bit concerning, but we'll dig a little bit further into that as we progress, perhaps on our next episode. I have to get some insight into that as well. But one of the things that we do know is that declaration was made, and we can begin to utilize that energy, right, and that momentum to continue our fight for reparations and also to build alliances internationally, which is of the utmost importance. Of course, we are combining that with the We Start Genocide 21 campaign, all right, which the original We Start Genocide uh, initiative was taken up in 1951 by our ancestors Paul Robeson, William Patterson, all right, also the reparations movement that was spearheaded by Queen Mother Moore, right, and others within the fights for human rights. Of course, also with our shining black prince ancestor El Haj Malik Al Shabazz, also known as Malcolm X, who took the plight to the UN, all right, and was known in his speech for taking the next steps and taking the jurisdiction from America, knowing that the violators themselves will most likely not prosecute themselves, right? And being able to take that jurisdiction from civil rights to human rights, take it out of the jurisdiction of the United States and put it into international criminal courts. All right. And so this is some of the momentum that we're building on and upon. And with that, launching of the Ubuntu Justice Jubilee, which is a concert series and workshops and forums starting this year, 2026, and moving through 2028. All right. And that is going to be able to utilize the vehicle and the apparatuses of arts and culture to be able to disseminate further information on reparations and political education to our people, using our art and using our artistry, using our culture in order to disseminate that information and energy, right, to further educate and empower the masses of people. And as we know from history, from the Black arts movement, that this is one of the potent ways to deliver that information and that energy to the people and making sure that they're informed, they're empowered. So with that, tomorrow we have our Ubuntu Justice Jubilee meeting, coordinating and organizing. Okay, and that is 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. That's going to be tomorrow, and we're going to be introducing some groundbreaking initiatives, family. All right, so definitely tune in, tap in, and get on board. All right, all aboard the Freedom Train. All right, onward to victory. Okay, so to find more information on that, I'll drop that in a second. But we're going to be talking about something because we talk about the aspects of needing, wanting, and needing to have better representation as far as our artists and artistry is concerned. Okay, we have a lot of uh, I'm not. It's hard for me to call it artistry, but we have a lot of. Uh, it's even hard for me to call it music. Okay, but we have a lot of words on beats and so forth. All right, that's super saturating the airwaves, right? That we are being bombarded with. A lot of it is, based on death and destruction, right? That is based on negativity and the perpetuation of that nonsense, and nonsensical types of actions and thoughts, right? And so with that, there is an imbalance that is going on, right? There is a lot of low frequency transmissions that we're being bombarded with. We're being super saturated with. So we have to be responsible and accountable enough to put our own energies and efforts forward to balance those scales. All right. So we're developing the freedom frequencies, family, where we're intentionally and intentfully putting forth different aspects of music, arts, and culture that is going to be infused with high frequency, that we're making sure we're going to have artistic integrity and be able to hold folks accountable and responsible for the content of their creations. Okay, so we're developing those inner chambers. All right. Within that, we're also going to be talking about the BAU family, the Black Artists Union. All right. There's a lot of disenfranchisement that has occurred, a lot of loss of generational wealth within the arts and music industries. All right. Knowing that for the most part, we don't control any of those mechanisms, any of those apparatuses, as far as uh, production distribution of these forms of art. All right, and that needs to change. So we're going to be building towards those efforts and being able to support one another and be able to launch things collectively. All right, so look out and listen out for more. Okay, as we build on the Black Artists Union and build within the freedom frequencies. All right, and being launched in other projects such as the SOS projects, which is Save Our Souls. All right, and being able to collaborate with artists not only nationally but internationally within these efforts. Okay, so for more information, you can email nationalmwm at AOL.com. Again, that's nationalmwm at AOL.com. Also, you can email powerman2282 at gmail.com. Again, that's powerman2282 at gmail.com. And you can also text 267 636 3802. Again, that number is 267 636 3802. All right, those meetings will be held or are being held on Zoom. And they're also more than likely being streamed on our Facebook Live page as well under the Lumumba Uncaged profile. All right, so tap in, tune in, and get more information and insight on that. And let's put positive propaganda forward, family. All right, with that being said, let me open up the floor really quickly. Any questions or comments with
I
the?
have a I have a comment.
Yes,
Once
yes,
you
please.
spoke about the vote, UN, slavery and reparation. It's really good that you go deeper on that because this is again the same Ghana that was so-called to represent us is the same Ghana that on the same day was signing a treaty with the same European Union that was neutral about this vote. Yes, it's something that's very serious. To restart the conversation, talk about this identity politic. A person is black, we should embrace and just take these symbols. Yes, this is what we should pay attention. And in US, because you are the most powerful diaspora, and I'm not talking about money or something like that,
Mhm.
about the understanding. And this discussion that we are having right now, nowhere in the diaspora, I mean the slavery diaspora, people have this kind of conversation. And you are the voice even to fight and to represent us on the Americas for this reparation. Of course, I'm talking about you have your own reparation in the United States. I'm not saying that the United States should pay for the others, but to
Yeah.
push this narrative,
Mhm.
they cannot represent us because they were involved in our disgrace where we are right now. They are at home. If Africa was colonized, sorry about that. Yes,
Mhm.
it was also their fault. Yes,
Mhm.
after 300 years dealing with Europeans, doing business with Europeans, this is what they got. And now they come to represent us. And on the same day, they sign a paper so the same Europeans can have the military powers there to attack the Sahel state. This is what they want. Yeah. So we must follow what these people are doing. And I, I was at the UN 2 months ago. Yes, people talking about reparation. I don't believe in this institution, but it's really nice to see the black, what you said, the white mask, black skin, the folks who are also going to this kind of environment. I went there just because I was with the folks from the diaspora, the ones who speak French. Sorry, but they are the description that Mumia Abu-Jamal said. This is how they act until today. The ones who confront more the system, although they are there, they speaking English speaking Afro descendants, FBAs, Africans. I don't know because I also count in the folks from the Caribbean. But the Spanish speaking people, Portuguese, I can speak about that because this is my reality. And the French speaking people, we are lost. And if we allow these Africans to represent us, although they are also the problem, and being real, they also owe us reparations. This is what I think. Thank you.
Wow.
Big facts. Big facts.
You know, I wasn't going to really convey this just yet, but Sister Shayla just really hit on some very key things. And I'm not going to elaborate now. However, we're working on, and I will have some of the dates for next week's program for Newark, Baltimore, DC, and I believe New York. Yeah. So what is getting ready to happen, family, is that some sessions are going to be held for sisters, Black women, African women, first. It'll be the whole community at another point or men at another point, but for right now it's going to be sisters, women. And the sessions are going to be geared to resolution. We're going to talk very candidly and openly about certain issues. And one of the main issues is going to be what is going on with Black folks here in the States, also known as North America or USA, and what's happening, the dysfunctionalities, the attacks, and other things that are happening amongst us presently. We are seeing a lot online, in particular, where continental Africans, some, not, of course not all, but some are saying disparaging things about Africans, Black African-born Americans. And Jamaican or Caribbean folks are saying different things about Black folks in America or Black folks. In other words, there's a lot of stuff going on online that is just very distasteful, very harmful, and the enemy is using it against us all. Some of the issues are issues that are true. Meaning, as Sister Shayla just said, we do know that there are periods where there was interaction with Europeans that African heads, kings or whatever, did have. And in as such, exchange, for lack of a better word, goods and other things. We do know that for a fact. And if you go all the way back to 2000, you will see a representative from Benin who came to the United States to do a public apology. He went to 2 Black communities to put on record the apology from the peoples and the government of Benin in regards to the involvement that they had with the transatlantic slave trade. So this is not something that somebody think happened. This is something that is actually recognized as a fact. And I know because I went to Benin and met with them, for those that do not know. So with that said, there are some conversations as sisters we are going to have. It's going to be twofold. One is going to be about us. How are we treating one another? How we should treat one another? Codes of conduct that we need to look at and adopt, etc., etc. But we're going to also look at what I just said in terms of the international discourse or what's going on. We want to talk about that. And then we want to look at how to resolve it. Because all this going back and forth, and the stuff that I'm hearing on some of these sites and some of these channels is just like, wow. I know the enemy's sitting back having a good old time. And so as women, we're going to step up. We're going to address this issue. We're going to have some intelligent, respectful conversations. And we're going to get to the nitty gritty of it with the intent of resolve, with the intent. It'll be truth and reconciliation our way. We're not trying to cover up nothing. We're not trying to hide it. We're not trying to just act, like it didn't happen. None of that. We're going to go head on with it, with the intent of resolve in whatever way possible. And so these sessions are coming up starting in June, so that we can do the best that we can to put an end to the unnecessary disunity and other kinds of things that's going on. We strongly believe that some of it is being orchestrated by our unnatural enemies and others. Some of it. Some of it is legit. But we've got to identify which is which and then deal with it accordingly and not lump everything into one basket. So that's what's coming up for next month, y'all. And it's going to be hot and heavy. I can tell you right now, one of them will be at the CMOTAP headquarters. I talked to Dr. McIntosh, and we're just waiting for the confirmation on the date. And brothers, you can attend these sessions as observers, but these particular sessions will not have your input at that time. And brothers, you can go and do sessions that you want to do, but these particular sessions right now are just for sisters in terms of the dialogue, in terms of the initial resolutions. We have to come to some concept and agreements about some things as women. We have that right, and we're taking it. Nobody's giving us that. We're taking it. So, sisters, those who are interested, you'll be able to get information starting next week. And we'll also give you more information tomorrow, as a matter of fact. So that's on that end. Okay. The other thing I want to share, and you, if there's anyone that has any feedback, feel free to bring it. If you have a comment or a question about anything I just said.
So I did have something I wanted to add to actually what Sister Shayla was adding in as a point of clarity. We're definitely going to be digging in further into the different aspects of Ghana, what they're representing, what they're proposing, what they're putting forward, and how they're representing. We definitely recognize also that, as you Sister Shayla stated, they did give authorities and certain powers to European nations immediately afterwards with the declaration on the 25th, with that acknowledgement of the transatlantic slave trade. So we definitely have some other works to do pertaining to that. But also just again, as a point of clarity, we're not putting our stock or a whole lot of merit into the type of legislation and so forth that goes in the United Nations. We know also factually that a lot of the times when the United Nations types of troops are sent to different continents, different countries, they are an opposing force. They are an occupying force. All right, so we're not under any illusions there either. But we are looking at how can we utilize these things to our greatest advantage. We have to, utilizing what we have to get what we want. And the fact of the matter is, this opens up avenues and opportunities for us to be able to utilize to get our own information out and to get our own agendas pushed forward. We're just utilizing this vehicle in order to do so. All All right. So I just want to, bring a point of clarity in order to do that. And also it opens up the arenas for us to be able to build with other entities, other countries as it pertains to allyship. So not only not specifically Ghana, but as was mentioned, this could give us other avenues into other African countries, some of which you had mentioned. I'm not going to get specific into that because we're not going to give out, our entire strategy and game plan on these type of channels. But rest assured, that aspect is not the end game. That's just the opening. All right, give thanks. I yield.
So thank you for that, Brother Lamoon. But what oftentimes people do not understand or comprehend is the game of politics. And unfortunately, to some degree, we have to play it. So for the record, just like when we do the Black Poli Sci 101 sessions, we have no illusion or we don't promote the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, none of that. In fact, what Brother Charles Barron made very clear was don't be that. I mean, because you joined the party for the political apparatus part of it is one thing. That don't mean we believe in that stuff like that. It's a tool, we use it, and that's as far as it goes. So going back to what Brother Lumumba just said, we have to position ourselves. Because in this country, most of our people are not represented adequately in hardly anything. So even though we have a Congressional Black Caucus, or we have state representatives, or we have senators, whatever, none of that, when it comes to particularly not even national stuff, but definitely not international stuff, our people are nowhere in none of that. And so we have to step up. Those of us who can must now step up so that we have access to that information and the capability to engage. We've got to do that. And so this is what is now happening. So taking these steps will enable us to enter into the playing field in a manner that allows us to be hands-on. We're not getting as much secondhand information. The other part to that is we'll be able to better identify, as Brother Lumumba just said, who we can have as allies. We don't know that. And nobody's going to help us know that. We have to do that ourselves. And we can't select that or understand that until we walk up in there like that. We can't depend on somebody else to tell us something beyond a certain point. And so these steps that we're taking now gets us in the game in a way on our own accord. We're representing ourselves, and we will be able to parlay because we will be informed, we will be intelligent, and we will be capable. And so this is what's really going on in the bigger realm of things. As we proceed, we will establish our own cadre or our own structure in such a way that it will be recognized in international circles. That's not happening right now. Very few have that kind of capability. And so, and again, it doesn't really help the masses of our people. Our people are taken for granted presently. They're perceived as being ignorant, and therefore people are primarily treating them in that manner. That's not what Brother Malcolm taught us. That's not what we're going to allow to continue to happen. And so we're stepping up. We're going to move into these arenas, keep the integrity that is necessary, and advance these struggles forward. And do it our way. Not from the Socialist Party or the Communist Party or anybody else's party. Let's be real clear about that. And it doesn't mean that we won't have allies with whomever, but best believe we were given the mission, the ideology, the philosophy, and the methodology of Black nationalism. And we are now taking that forward into Black internationalism as a political strategy. And we will be doing classes and other things in that regard so that our people are more prepared to represent in the manner that is best for us. No other people is going to allow another people's philosophies to control how they move. And we will no longer allow it either. Okay, moving right along. All right, Brother Muma. So before we close out, we just want to do some quick updates. The National Black Student Movement Society, we're getting ready to do a forum here in Philly that is geared specifically to high school students and college students in particularly, to get that ball rolling with them. The issue that they will, this town meeting is going to be for them to air or to share their opinion, ideas, and views about certain things, particularly education. We want to hear what they are saying or want to say. Here in Philadelphia, there is now a projection of 20 schools to be closed during 2027 and 2028. So we want to hear what high school students think about that, because some of these schools are schools that they're attending and familiar with, and now they're going to be uprooted and taken to another school. And sometimes that's not good depending on the area. If you're from one area of Philadelphia and you go into another area of Philadelphia and they know you're not from that area, that could be problematic. And so we want the students to be able to talk about how they feel about it. We also want to talk to college age students to get their opinion on our position with We Charge Genocide as it pertains to them taking a stand against student loan debt. That should be an issue that they stand up for, as people did in the 1950s and the 1960s. They stood for something. And so we're looking at this group of students now to stand up for something specific that is referencing or about us. So we're not talking about student loan debt forgiveness, as Biden and others have said. We're talking about Black student loan debt. We want it rescinded. We want to also look at education. And so we'll be talking more about that tomorrow and also next week. So those are some of the updates. The other thing we want to mention that we'll bring up tomorrow, and we'll be talking more this week, is with We Charge Genocide, just 2 units that are now going into effect. One is the National Association for the Advancement of Black People, and the other one is the National Black Anti-Defamation League. So again, as we talked with Sister J earlier about our sisters standing up for one another, protecting one another, defending one another, because we are very clear that most will not do that for our women. We can prove that. We'll stand up for Palestine and you name it. But our own women and girls right here, ask people, what work you doing around that? So we can prove that, as Brother Malcolm said 65 years ago, the most disrespected person in America is the Black woman. We can prove it. So with that said, we're going to also up the ante and begin to look at how to better protect ourselves when it comes to defamation of our people, of our leaders, for lack of a better terminology. If other people can respond when issues hit them that they don't like, where's our response? How organized is that? So again, we're going to change that dynamic. with the National Black Anti-Defamation League. And if you all think that we just made this up, we're going to share with you next week to show you that it was already done. I believe it was 1967. I had to check the year on that. But there was a Black Anti-Defamation League that Ossie Davis, H. Rap Brown, and others were a part of. So no, we're not making this up. We're just reactivating some things. So we'll share more with you on that next week. All right, Brother Muma, get ready to close out from here.
All right. And let me add on to that really quickly because that will open the doorway up for, dare I say, the International Black Anti-Defamation League.
All right. Yep.
So we can connect and build, globally.
Yes.
That being said, let me open up the floor one last time for any questions or comments before we get ready to close out for this evening, based on any of the information that you have heard this evening. Questions or comments, family?
Can anyone hear me?
Yes. I'm gonna go to Sister Dot, and then I'm gonna go to Sister Shayla, and I'm not sure if anyone else has any.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, then I'm gonna go to Baba Moses. Okay, let me. Sister Dot, you got the floor.
All right, so real fast. Wonderful, 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 wonderful meeting. Wonderful. I agree with everything everybody said. And I also just wanted to thank you, Sister Filet, for talking about that black president the way it should be talked about. Because there's too many people giving high fives on that crap that they instituted just for us. It's a shame. It was embarrassing how many people, oh, black president this, black president. I'm trying to figure out what he did. Cause I I didn't get it. The purpose was they talked about him like a doll. They told him he wasn't gonna do nothing, and then he couldn't. He was up there just to be looked at. It was a facade. It was sad. But anyways, I love this meeting. I agree with what everybody said. We got look. It's time to do some action and some commitment, and as you've been saying all along. And I'm ready. I'm ready.
All
So
right.
thank you for letting me speak.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. And thank you for that addition, Sister Dot. All right, coming over to Sister Shayla.
Thank you for the conversation and the open conversation because what I see, and I will never minimize the external factors that affect us as what we say our open enemy, right? So they are who they are. If you read and study, they use the same pattern. They have been used that for 500 years. They even don't change the ways how they attack us. I read a lot, and there is no change. And it's very important for us to call out Black people because, of course, there are some exceptions. We belong to the exceptions, otherwise, we wouldn't be here. But until when we will always, I will say the thing, excuse, because when I'm involved with Black folks and they try to minimize the role that we play historically, and because of that we are in this situation, starting in Africa, on West Africa, where the most of us came from. So is to mean it's colonization, it's this and that. Look, people fight when they want to be free. Even the history of your, I don't want to say your own country, but the place, the colonial prison where you are, the United States, even for them to get the independence from the England, They were a minority and they fought, yes, to are you live free or are you die. And we don't see the same move in our people. And I'm not talking about the United States, I'm talking about Black people, diaspora, Africa. They are at home. So they are very problematic because they are at home and they don't fix the problem. And it will affect us outside because we are not at home. Yes, we are in captivity until today. And we have a lot of what you call Negroes or other names that they put us in a bad, in a worse situation. This is what the sister said, the role that they played, receiving gifts, receiving alcohol. We see the same thing today when folks they get their money, they become celebrities, they become politicians, they get their small stuff. This it means the brand is from the 400 years ago, the clothes that they got. The situation keeps the same, and we must to put Black people also as responsible for the situation because we play a role in that, and because of that, we are in the situation that we are in for 500 years.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Thank you for that addition, Mr.
Brother
Shayla.
Mumbo, before we go to the next person, could you check your email? I sent you something that I just want to, before we close out, briefly share with everyone on the National Black Anti-Defamation League.
All right, will do.
Okay.
Gathering that, let me go over to Baba Moses.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me say that it's been a very, very educational show. We learn from it, words and deeds. We learn from experience. We don't learn just by words alone. We have to go through experience. That's why Obama was so relevant. We have to go through experience. That's how we got the consciousness we have today, because we have experiences that brought this consciousness to us. And let me say also that I love John Brown. John Brown was white, but I love him just as much as I love Black people, because he was for us and about us, and he was about just us and all people and freedom. And I'm about freedom. Marxism is about government serving the people. And in New York, the mayor is a Marxist. He's got the government opening grocery stores to serve the people, to help solve the problems of inadequate food in New York. That's a Marxist for you. I'll leave it right there. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that addition, Baba Moses. But as you said, we have to learn from experience, and if the experience of Marxism or any of the things that we're dealing with currently were the answer, we would have already been free by now. All right, so I don't want to put anybody in any type of misinterpretation or misunderstanding on what it is that's going on and what needs to be done moving forward. We have to move past and beyond the majority of things that we did, right, and move to what we're going to do into the future. We can utilize all these things to learn from and to build towards a greater future, but we definitely don't want to get stuck in the past. We don't even want to get stuck in the present, right? Because the present ultimately becomes the past. We want to build and move towards the future. And just to mention on John Brown as well, we talked about allies a little bit earlier, and John Brown knew where he stood as an ally, right? And was willing to sacrifice his own life. All right. And so that's how we need our allies to move. And we have to make a sharp compare and contrast to the quote unquote allies that we have today that in a lot of cases utilize these type of movements or this type of quote unquote activism in order to usurp, in order to steal energy, in order to clout chase, in order to get famous and other things. So we have to be very cautious and conscientious, as was stated earlier, about who we allow into our circles and then how far they're able to get within those scopes. All right. So there should be different levels. And at that center, at that core, there should be very, very few. Not everybody is invited to the cookout. All right. So I just wanted to state that just to bring a balance to the information that was shared. With that being said,
and I just real quick, I just want to say that there are at least 8 types of identifiable love. And this is why I said it's very important at some point that we identify when we say that we're Black, What does that mean? What does it represent? What are the essences of it from a political frame of reference in that regard? There's other elements of it, but let's just say from a political frame of reference. And with that said, there's no way that one of a political frame perspective of blackness could love the same way they would someone black, someone else. It just doesn't make sense. Yeah, and yes, I said it. Because we need to be real clear about some things as we proceed. And again, that's just not my opinion. That is a position that others also have and will now bring forward so we can get rid of some of this confusion. It is wonderful to have associates and so forth, but to love people the same way that you would love your brother or sister, that's just unacceptable. But anyway, moving right along.
All right, all right, absolutely, indeed. And I would say, even further, again, all skin folk are not kinfolk. So there's a lot of black folks, at the same time who shouldn't be in certain circles, as was stated previously with Sister J. Renee, right? And we have to be cautious and conscientious all across the board, family. And just be careful, go through the vetting process as was previously stated, and be able to put things into proper perspective. All right, because even folks within your immediate family, I'm talking about blood relatives, might not have your best interest at heart. That's just the fact, family. Those are just the facts. All right, so don't be fooled. All right, don't be bamboozled, hoodwinked, or led astray. All right, be very careful who you're letting into your circles, what energies you're taking on. This is blood family. This is ethnic family. And of course, allies. You have to be very careful on what the intent is, what the energy is, and what the actual building of that specific relationship is. All right. So let's be very much more mindful and intentful about growing our relationships, growing our families, growing our communities, and growing our nations. All right. Let me come to this article, and I'm gonna let you dig into it, Sister Empress. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, this is all right. There you have it. Sister Empress, you want to expound on this? Yeah.
Okay, there we are. So again, I just wanted to kind of let folks see, and you can research it for yourself. So as you could see, 1967, as I remembered it was, there was something called the Black Anti-Defamation League. And as you can see, they put out a press release. Now that league was put together specifically to address a situation. It didn't stay in place long, but it was effective. So here we have, this is what I'm saying. We have these things, and we will not uphold what our people have already done and given us. Look at the people on there. Well, you might not be able to see it, but I can tell you, Stokely Carmichael, also known as Kwame Ture, H. Brown, also, of course, known as Imam Jamil Al-Amin, Ossie Davis, Godfrey, what was the comedian name? Godfrey, it'll come to me in a moment. But I'm saying, right. Our people did stuff. And not just, haphazardly or here and there. They literally did certain things. And these are people who were in not only the music or entertainment industry, but also in the political arena. They did it collectively and came up against the system. Now, this particular time, there was this thing being put out about Nat Turner, by the way. That's what really sparked it, right? And so, again, when people are defaming or, just demising, diminishing our people, we need to stand up and fight back. And so, again, we've had Brother Malcolm, we've had Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, we've had others who this system literally tore apart or tried to. And most just sat back and watched it. And so we're saying no more. So there you have the historical significance of what we are now bringing forward. Again, we're bringing forward things that our people already did, already showed us, already paid prices for. And it's readily right there available for you to review for yourself. So we're not making stuff up. We have researched, evaluated, and look to see what we must do to honor our ancestors, respect ourselves, and prepare better for the future.
All right. I say. All right, family. I think we are at the close. Thank you all once again. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your continued support. All right. Thank you for your comments and commentary as well as questions. With that being said, we're going to close out this edition of New Day Resurrection Liberation this evening. I want to give thanks first and foremost to the Creator, Creatress, Most High. I want to give thanks to the ancestors and the elders, those who have shed blood, sweat, and tears and paved the way to allow us to be here today. I want to thank you all. All right. Those who are tuning in on our Facebook feeds, our YouTube feeds, those who joined us here in the yard. Thank you for your time, energy, and effort, dedication, determination, and discipline. I bid you all truth, justice, peace, love, freedom, power, prosperity, protection, patience, and divinely principled purpose. I want to say let us continue to strategize, organize, and mobilize. And finally, family, of course, I want to say promote Tashinda, which means together we will win.
Oh,
Right.
Brother Lumumba, my apologies. I was looking for something and I just found it. Family, if you would just be so kind to indulge us just for 5 more minutes. I was trying to find something and I couldn't find it. I just found it. Brother Lumumba, please check your email. We just need 5 more minutes of your time, and when you hear this, it will speak for itself. This again. I think Sister Janae, J. Renee mentioned earlier how this is a divine time, and when you hear what you're getting ready to hear after this conversation, surely I think it will, if not validate some of what has been said, it certainly gives us enough insight to know that we are proceeding in the best ways that as we should. Next month, we will be commemorating the born day of Stokely Carmichael Kwame Ture. And so I've been preparing for that. Which we'll tell you more about next week. Of course, on the 25th of this month is African Liberation Day. On that day is also the the ancestral day of the great Madam C.J. Walker. So those were a couple of things that I wanted to mention that I forgot to mention earlier. But I want you to hear this, and then we'll close out.
Mr. Carmichael, if you had the chance to stand up in front of the white community and say anything you desired, say to him, understand me, white man, what would you say?
I would say, understand yourself, white man, that the white man's burden should not have been preached in Africa, but it should have been preached among you, that you need now to civilize yourself. You have moved to destroy and disrupt. You have taken people away. You have broken down their systems, and you have called all that civilization. And we who have suffered at this are now saying to you, you are the killers of the dreams. You are the savages. Yes, it is you who have always been uncivilized. Civilize yourself.
Mr. Carmichael.
Now we can close out.
All right. So tune in tomorrow, Ubuntu Justice Jubilee at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Zoom and Facebook Live. And of course, tune in to the Ethereal Journey podcast. That's every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. That's on YouTube as well as Facebook Live. All right. Thanks once again. Peace and love, family.